Aucklanders can breathe a sigh of relief, for now at least, after genome testing overnight revealed a direct link between an Auckland student with Covid-19 and a Defence Force worker at the Jet Park Quarantine Hotel. It means the country will remain in level 1 and Aucklanders can now return to the city. Residents were left rattled yesterday after an AUT student in her 20s who lives and works in the central city became infected. But the Ministry of Health says the fact the current cases are connected is positive news. It does mean a renewed push for mask wearing, with Cabinet to consider on Monday whether to make it mandatory on all public transport in Auckland and on all domestic flights around the country. Here's our political editor, Jane Patterson.
Auckland poised to reopen after central city workers were told to stay home. The COVID recovery minister says they can now return, but there are a few extra requests.
Events can take place, but we are asking that people act with caution as we continue to assess the risk of potential spread of any of the current cases.
The woman at the centre of the latest community case became symptomatic on Monday and was tested late on Tuesday. Despite that, she went to work before her positive test sparked a full-blown health response. Chris Hipkins says the good news is no new community cases have been reported.
More importantly, the new case has now been directly genomically linked to the recent case of a defence worker from the Jet Park who spent some time in locations close to where this new case worked. That direct link means that the new case doesn't point to an unknown border incursion.
Mr Hipkins had to intervene this morning when he realised officials were not at the Central City apartment building last night to make sure people were not coming and going after being told to isolate.
It became apparent early this morning that there weren't people at the front door there this morning, and so as soon as I became aware of that, got on the phone and made sure that that happened.
There's now a big push for surveillance testing in Auckland, and anyone who's symptomatic's being asked to get tested and then isolate. Public Health Director Dr Carolyn McElnay had a specific request for people who visited the same places as the recent case to get tested, even if there are no symptoms.
The Mitzi Bar on the 5th of November, Red Pig Restaurant on the 7th of November, Sunnytime China Taste Restaurant on the 9th of November, Auckland City Doctors on the 10th of November, and the AUT Student Hub on the 10th of November.
While New Zealand remains at level 1, Mr Hipkins says he'll take a new proposal to Cabinet on Monday.
To make mask use on public transport within the Auckland region mandatory on an ongoing basis. This will include the wearing of masks on all passenger aircraft that travel domestically within New Zealand.
The same may also be on the way for the rest of the country, particularly those areas with managed isolation facilities and international airports.
Auckland at this point, but we will be looking at other areas and whether or not we differentiate other parts of the country as well.
In Auckland and elsewhere, people are being asked to be diligent and scan in wherever they go. But Mr Hipkins is signalling that too could become compulsory.
That may include making it mandatory for people to scan into businesses or events in certain circumstances. For example, at large gatherings or at hospitality venues where social distancing isn't possible. I will take further advice to that on that to Cabinet in due course.
One of the more controversial elements in this latest case was whether the retail worker was persuaded to come into work by her manager after calling in to tell them that she had symptoms and was waiting for a test result. Today, lawyers' letters from the same firm denying that was the case, and that included statements from the store's owners and the woman herself. In the letter, which is not signed by the woman, both parties say they've been subject to torrents of abuse online, and any suggestion she was made to come into work sick is categorically untrue. Mr Hipkins says officials have received no information other than what they received yesterday, and he has this plea.
It is the virus that's the problem and not the people. They do not deserve to have blame heaped upon them. They need our support. Please be mindful of their privacy and how they are feeling.
Meanwhile, New Zealand officials will leave for the Cook Islands tomorrow, where they'll spend a week checking out how a travel bubble could work. They'll come back and spend 2 weeks in isolation while working on their report back for Cabinet. From Parliament for Checkpoint, Jane Patterson.